Hello, this is Joseph Krieger, and we're with you today having a little conversation with my dear friend and the subject of the book that we co-authored together. His name is Victor Breitberg. The name of the book is A Rage to Live, Surviving the Holocaust So Hitler Would Not Win. We've done some interviews before where we've talked about historical background information and Victor's life from the time of his earliest remembrances through the war, his post-war experiences, his marriage, his career here in the States, and even a bit about his retirement. What we're going to do in this session today is we're just going to have a little bit of a talk about remembering what it was like when we first met and how some things have progressed since that time. As we are doing this, it's just going to be very informal and a discussion of our own personal remembrances. So I'm going to begin by asking Victor a question, and he's not prepared for any of the questions that I'm asking, so we're just kind of doing this in a very informal way and having a good time with it. So, Victor, tell me, it was November of 2009 when we first talked. That was after I had sent an email to Ronnie Leibowitz in New York City at the Jewish Gen offices, having read one of your articles. At the time, I was writing a play about a Jewish Holocaust survivor. I read some of your articles and said, wow, this would be interesting. Maybe I can make this more of an autobiographical or biographical play rather than a fictional story completely. And so, having read your articles, I contacted Ronnie. She was going to put me in contact with you, and before I could contact you, I received a telephone call from you about 2 days later. And when I received that phone call, I began to explain to you what my idea was, and then we began our first conversations together. So what I want you to tell the audience is, when I first proposed the idea to you of writing a play using your life as the basic character, it being based in a real person rather than a fictional person, and we had our first conversation, tell me a little bit about what you thought about that when I presented this idea to you.
All right, I have it.
Okay.
Well, I was a little interested, and in another way also, I was hesitating. Do I really need this person, because I already wrote quite a bit about the story about Auschwitz, about all those things. So what can he do for me? So I got another phone call from somebody else, and he says, Victor, he is going to be quite a good man, and he can help you too. And I always was wondering, to what? But at the same time, slowly we were talking about that, and he interviewed me, I interviewed him, and we started liking each other. That's the most important thing in anything, that people trust each other and people try to help each other. This is one of the things which I liked about him, and he liked what I did. And we started talking about the stories. They have Auschwitz and Gibraltar and so on and on and on. And as the paper started having life in itself, we joked sometimes a little bit and laughed a little bit. But the main thing, we wanted to establish something, the tragedy of Holocaust. And we succeeded. Even though he never was over there, and I tried to explain him, and as through my explanation and about his own explanation, we found something together to do something. How long is it going to be doing between him and myself? I don't know. All I know is I like to keep going, because we have a good story, and beside the story, it's the tragedy behind it. And that's what I would like to do. He's going to have a theater. And he tried to explain what he wanted. And I told him one thing I'm going to ask you on that story in the theater. The guy who's talking kneels down on his feet. So this is about it. And if I have a problem or he has a problem, we talk. And we developed a nice writing, but I wanted to go more further on. It doesn't have to be about the Holocaust, but it can be even about Israel and so on. It's our responsibility to be a human being, and a human being we are. Thank you.
So, one of the things that I recall in that first conversation was the very first words. If you haven't read our book, it's in the chapter, Victor and Me. We talk about this a little bit. I got this phone call, and when I pick up the phone, on the other end is Victor, and he goes, hello, this is Victor Breitberg. And I said, oh, Mr. Breitberg. I said, hello. I said, you've contacted me before I could get a hold of you. He says, well, I talked to Ronnie in New York, and I had the information, so I just thought I would call you. And he goes, but I have one question for you. Now, you have to understand, this is the very first question that Victor asks me. And this is what Victor said. He said, how should I call you? And I said, he said, should I call you Reverend? Should I call you Minister? Should I call you Mr. Krieger? What should I call you? And I said, Joe will be fine. And he says, okay, Reverend. And I laughed, and he laughed, and that's kind of been part of our relationship right from the beginning. I said, right from that point in time, I said, I believe, I said, the Lord has put us in a place together, and I believe something is going to occur here, and this relationship is going to develop and grow. Now, of course, Victor's mentioned the idea of the theater and a play that is being written. It's being based on the book. Of course, the basic premise when I was first contacting Victor was just writing a play. But when I came for my first face-to-face visit in February of 2010, our first contact was November 2009. It was to talk about the play, but by the end of the week, and Victor and I had already really gotten to know each other very well, and of course, many, many hours of storytelling there. But Victor had said, do you think there's the possibility we could take some of the things that I've already written, and you could help me put it together more like a book, just for my family, for a family remembrance? You remember that conversation?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I said, well, sure, I can help you do that. I have a little background in doing these things. Well, obviously, that little idea of putting together a book as a family remembrance has turned into something much more than that. So,
when you finish.
yeah, no, you go right ahead now. No, that's it. Now it's your turn. Go ahead.
Even though we wrote a book, we're not stopping. When we see something which is wrong, we'll talk about it's wrong. And when we see something happen, we should help out too. The world is going around, and more or less, we have to do something about it. And so far, as a Holocaust survivor, I'm look at it. And if I find it, I'll say it. And if I say it, better watch out.
Well, yes, there is a conviction, not only on our part as friends and as a writing team, but in other individuals that I've met and have read about who are engaged in teaching various perspectives of the Holocaust as such a deep and broad topic. The contemporariness of the idea of genocide, it's very obvious from news headlines. Here we are sitting on April the 16th, a day after the Boston Marathon bombing, and headlines have been in the paper for the 2 weeks prior to that about genocide still existing in the world today. We know it does. It's in Africa. Official declarations are coming from the United Nations that, from one perspective, some of the things that are going on in Syria right now are going to formally be labeled as genocide against the Syrian people. It's a term that's been around since antiquity as far as the result of what genocide is. Perhaps it wasn't obviously using that term. It's a more modern term since the World War II era, formally being given that title. of that type of an approach to eliminating individuals for various reasons, but with a focused purpose. So we're still living in a world where this idea of genocide and Holocaust is not going away. And we have a generation of individuals who won't be with us that much longer, just like the World War II generation, the greatest generation as it's been dubbed, for those who participated in that conflict, that still today things are being discovered about it that haven't been known. And so when Victor says not to forget and to still be a voice regarding these things, that is a commitment on both of our parts. In some small way, we hope that our book, as we've written in it, is an encouragement to others to tell their stories, to speak out, to engage with others who are in need, and so that these things are not forgotten. So, Victor, here we are sitting almost, it's the 1-year anniversary of the publication of our book. So just tell me a little bit about what your thoughts are today, thinking about it 1 year later since it's been actually put in print, electronically in EPUBs and in printed version that people can buy. Just tell us a little bit about your thoughts here on close to our 1-year anniversary of having published the book.
God forbid. Okay, and I'm not joking around and not talking about. The book is made. First of all, I'm holding back books because I wanted to other people to read, and so on. But what is our purpose of this whole thing here? What is the purpose? To buy a book? Somebody, maybe I walk around and say, would you buy me a book from me? And I said, no, I will not do that. I'd rather give it away than let it go to somebody else. And most of the books which I give away in a purpose, I give them 4, 5 weeks or 8 weeks to use it, but please give me back my book. And so far, people are doing that. Now, what is this whole thing we're talking about? Now, let's remember how many children died. Let's remember the parents who died. How did my mother walk into the concentration camp and they told her to strip, and then I could just shudder that my mother would have to do that. But meanwhile, gas came along and took its head. I'm a happy man. I'm not I'm not bitter. Even when I'm sometimes a little bit light for the Germans too. Because I cannot say I hate you. If I say hate you, that means it has to be done something about it. The young people of Germany they are also feeling the house about Hitler. I felt it. My father did. Everybody we felt. But that has to be stamped away. There is no prejudice. And if you keep the prejudice away, the children will live. And maybe I will succeed. Bye.
So that's just a little bit of a informal chat between us today. We're going to be doing some more with a few other pointed questions, but it's been a wonderful opportunity, not in just the writing of the book, but far surpassing the actual physical book itself. I'm so thankful for the relationship that we've been able to develop as friends over these years, and we'll continue to have that relationship. When we get together down here every once in a while, where Victor's living now at Winmore Village, it's a beautiful place. You can see a little bit of it behind us. It's always a good time. We talk about all kinds of things, these very serious things that are still contemporary issues, talk about history, we talk about politics, we talk about various aspects of religion, we talk about the Bible, we talk about funny things, and in the end things come down to the same bottom line, no matter how serious our discussions are. At the end, there's always room for laughter. Nothing interferes with our relationship as friends. We look forward to the next time that we'll be together to talk about anything. So Victor's got something more to say.
Even though I'm born in Poland, but he's a Polak.
That's true.
So we joke around about that of course.
Yeah.
But a little laughing goes a long way.
That's right.
And we shall keep this thing here.
Right.
And we'll see whether we maybe come along with something else, which is the world is going on, and we have to do it, not look away. And as long as we don't look away, and we don't have prejudice, we'll have a better world.
Thank you, Victor. Yes, that's it. Victor is a native-born Pole, and I am by heritage, by the family relationship of my father. Both my grandfather and my father on my grandmother and my grandfather on my father's side were from Poland. So that about wraps it up for this little session. Again, like we've said, it's a very informal time together, a talk. This isn't scripted out in any way. Just some thoughts, just some ideas, even kind of doing it in reporter style with a microphone being handheld right now. For in our environment, it's really the best way to do it. And so thank you for listening in and spending these few moments with us. And as we do a few more of these and add them to some of the other interviews that we've done in our archives on our website, we hope that'll just give you some insight into many different things. So thanks for listening. So from Victor Breitberg and me, Joseph Krieger, bye for now, and thank you so very much.
Thank you.